Hey, everyone. Welcome to this week's session of The Good, the Bad, and the True. It's your girl, Naya Angel. I'm here with my co-host and homie for life, Mr. PAT. What's up,
What up?
sir?
What up? What up? What's good, everybody?
Yes, and it's a super exciting topic we're going to be discussing tonight. But before we jump into it, we of course want to give a shout out to our other co-host, E-Man, who is not with us at the moment. For all our listeners out there, he recently had a very unfortunate event occurred to him and his family. They experienced a house fire and they lost a lot of things. Thank the universe, everyone came out, healthy and safe. But if you would like to continue to support, please feel free to do so. We will definitely share that GoFundMe link when we upload this week's episode. So, E-Man, we got you, sir. We're going to hold things down until your triumphant return.
Right. We're going to hold it down. We're going to hold it down till you come back.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, so I'm ready. We got to dive right in because, like, the nerd in me is coming out.
Yeah, me too. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We about to really geek out.
We about to geek out on them for a second. We got to do this. We are talking about the Batman.
Oh, yeah.
Like, yes, the good stuff. I've been waiting for this movie since the first trailer came out last year. I had to watch that trailer probably like 50 times. I've seen this movie 3 times now. Like, I'm super hyped.
Okay, all right. 3 times, all right.
3 times now. My family and I went twice to see it. And then I went another time with a friend. And it was like every time it just got better and better for me. Like, that's where I am.
No, it was a dope movie. It's definitely a dope movie.
Dope. Yes, definitely a dope movie. So we're going to keep this very simple, sir. Let's just, chat it out, share our thoughts. What did you think about the Batman?
It was a great movie. It was a great movie altogether. It was dope overall. I will say though, before the Batman came out, I wasn't like super duper excited to see it. And it's weird to say that. And it might be weird for people who know me to hear this, because the people who know me know that I'm a huge Batman fan. So for me to say that I wasn't extremely excited for this movie is just going to sound crazy to some people. But I wasn't like extremely excited only because honestly, I was looking forward to the Ben Affleck version of the Batman. Now, for the folks out there who I guess might not know, for those who aren't initiated, Ben Affleck was originally supposed to do the Batman, but he basically stepped back from being director, and he was just gonna act, because before he was gonna do both. He was gonna be Batman. Then he stepped back from being the actor for Batman. He basically just dropped out completely.
Right.
And then the whole thing just got turned over to Matt Reeves, and Matt Reeves decided to start fresh. Like, he didn't want to have any ties to the DC extended universe with Superman and Wonder Woman and the Flash, the Cyborg, the whole Justice League. He didn't want to have he didn't want his Batman to have any connection to that universe. He wanted to just start fresh.
Now that's interesting, because I thought that, like, in the beginning of this movie, I saw multiple trailers for like Black Adam and Aquaman and The Flash, but you're saying they're not going to be connected to Matt Reeves' Batman, though?
No, they have no connection at all. Basically, those three that you mentioned, Black Adam, Aquaman, and The Flash, they're still part of the DC
DCU
extended universe. Basically, we'll call it the Snyderverse. So they're all a part of that. But yeah, Matt Reeves, his Batman is not going to be a part of that universe. He's basically just starting from zero.
Right.
He's starting fresh. So yeah, once I heard all of that, that's when I was kind of like, I mean, you know, I honestly, I really wanted to see more of the Snyderverse. And I know I'm like probably one of the few, because of course there's a lot of people out there who hated the Snyder movies, basically Justice League and Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman. I'm probably one of the few fans out there. You know, I think it's more than just a few, but it's very divided. You know, it's very divided because you have a strong percentage of people who like Snyder's DC movies, but then you have another strong percentage of fans who hate it. Like
I'm somewhere in between.
Yeah, man, you got the people who are like, you know, who basically like you, they're in between. But I'm a fan of those movies. Like, I really liked Man of Steel. I really liked Batman versus Superman. I definitely liked the Snyder cut of the Justice League. And I liked Wonder Woman, even though he wasn't like the main person for that. He was just kind of he had something to do with Wonder Woman also.
Yeah, the first one was good. The second one was dope. A bunch of malarkey.
The first one was dope, but the second one was just like, come on, like, what are y'all doing? Like, y'all dropped the ball on this one. They did Cheetah dirty.
Yeah,
they did her real dirty, like real dirty.
Yeah.
So so basically, I'm a fan of those movies, and I wanted to see more, and I wanted to see like that universe unfold. So I was really excited to see Ben Affleck's The Batman. And I was also excited to see that because the villain of that movie was going to be Deathstroke.
Right.
So I was like, oh shit.
That would have been lit.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, whoa, we're about to get Ben Affleck's Batman, his version of Batman, and his own solo movie going against Deathstroke, who I think is dope. And he's like one of my favorite characters also. So I was really waiting.
Just a quick nerd moment here. I'm just going to share that for those who aren't fully aware. Deathstroke is a villain in the DC universe, who often face Batman. He is what a lot of people claim that what's the one Ryan Reynolds plays all the time, Deadpool, is based on, because Deathstroke was created first, and he is Slade Wilson, which is very, very close to Wade Wilson, who is Deadpool in Marvel Cinematic Universe. And they even have similar powers. They both wield swords. So for all of you comic book fans out there who aren't aware, that's who Deathstroke is. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, you're right. Deadpool is basically like a parody of Deathstroke. But then, of course, as we all know, Deadpool took off and he's his own character. And but yeah, you basically just got it right there. That's Deathstroke in a nutshell. So yeah, I was excited to see that version of the Batman. So that's why when this one came out, and I saw the trailers, like the first few trailers, I was like, okay, I could see they're going for the more detective angle and
which I think noir style,
in the noir style too. So I was like, okay, that's cool. I'm all for it, because I think we do need to see more of that side of Batman. because we didn't really get a whole lot of that in the previous movies.
Exactly.
Even though you've like, we've gotten bits and pieces of it, but this movie in particular definitely explores the detective side of Batman. So I thought that was dope. And I was looking forward to that part. But yeah, the first couple trailers, I was like, okay, I mean, I'm gonna check it out when it comes out. But then the last trailer, probably like the second to last trailer, either the second to last or the very last trailer I saw, that's when I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I'm a little more pumped because they showed a little bit more.
Right.
So I was like, yeah, I'm definitely going to go see this movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But, absolutely.
Yeah. But the first couple trailers, I was just kind of like, okay, it looks cool,
Yeah. I honestly, that's very fair. I think for me, I wasn't as confident in Robert Pattinson as much as I was in the fact that it was clearly going a different direction than the other Batmans, because I would say that my favorite superhero is Batman. I'm a huge Batman fan. And so for me, I could tell by those trailers that it was going a different direction than the Nolan films. And and the Burton films as well, right? Both sets. And the thing about Batman is he really is such a diverse character that you can have multiple interpretations of him and still be fairly accurate as far as the comic book art. But I would say that it is very important for most people to understand that Batman was never a character for children. Right. The Adam West version was not the intent of the Batman.
Right. That's true.
I think when I saw those trailers, I said to myself, they're finally understanding the entire premise behind an alter ego for him being the Dark Knight. Batman is dark in character. He is honestly one of the ways that I describe him to people to really explain to them how diverse his character is and just how dynamic his character is that Batman is as broken mentally as the villains he faces.
Yeah, it's just absolutely.
He just chooses to do good with his psychosis. But if you think about it, it is not typical, even for someone who experienced what he experienced, right? We all know the story, the Batman origin story, the Bruce Wayne story, what happened to him in witnessing his parents' death, right? Even if you were to compare that to a real life situation, yes, someone in that situation could be scarred from that, and that would forever be a traumatic event in their life. And they may even decide, hey, listen, I want to, be an avenger for people, so I'm going to join the police force. But to elect to dress up as a bat to invoke fear in criminals and go out there and fight every night and risk death is a completely different thing. That's a break in psychosis. And so I think that for me, seeing those trailers was like, ooh, okay, they're really starting to dive into the makeup of the character. They are going beyond Batman is dark and has cool gadgets, which is what the original Batman was, right? Tim Burton's version. So if you break it down by director, Tim Burton's version was the first movie version of Batman. He knew that he had to steer away from Adam West's depiction because that's not what the intent of the movie was, right? Yeah. The series of movies he wanted to produce. So he knew that he had to portray Batman as dark, but at the same time, those movies were more so about the villains than they were Batman. Right. All of the villains in those movies, in my opinion, outshine the actual people that played Batman. That's not to say Michael Keaton didn't do a great job. Hell, I even think Val Kilmer did a great job. I'm not even going to speak on George Clooney because that, like that, it's disrespectful that situation ever even fucking happened. But But that's not to say that Michael Keaton and Val Kilmer didn't do a good job as Batman. It's just that the people that played the villains in those movies were so great that it was very hard for you to really appreciate the characters that those actors played as the Batman. Whereas in the Nolan films, I think Christian Bale did do a good job as both Bruce Wayne and Batman.
Yeah,
however, he did a good job balancing both. However, the third Batman, when he finally hangs everything up, it was kind of like they wanted you to feel like there was extreme growth there because there were 8 years in between the events that happened in the Dark Knight versus what happened in Dark Knight Rises, but you didn't really feel that way. It still felt like a younger version of Batman who had just decided to retire early. And so I think when I saw this, the trailer, the very first trailer for this, and again, I can't say that I'm a huge Robert Pattinson fan, even after the movie. Do I think he did a great job? Absolutely. But it's not that I'm like a huge Robert Pattinson fan. That's not where this is coming from. But when I saw the trailer and I saw that the entire movie appeared to be just in a much darker tone, even Robert Pattinson appearing to be a little more gothic than any previous Batman, I said, this is different. This is going to be different, if for nothing else, for that reason. And I think that they did a good job there. I love the movie. I would say it kind of reminds me of like Seven, and the detective is Batman.
That's what a lot of people have been saying. I've been hearing a lot of people say that, like it reminds them of Seven.
Yes, because the serial killer himself, because make no mistake, Riddler is a glorified serial killer in this movie. Because I mean, when you think about the premise of why Riddler is doing everything, yes, in the comic books, there were villains who were also conscious to a certain extent, right? But the Riddler wasn't necessarily one of them. Yes, he was always very intelligent, but for the Riddler, it was more of a game of cat and mouse between him and Batman. It wasn't really any political drives behind why he would do some of the things he would do to Batman before. Whereas this movie, that is definitely the most important aspect of what the Riddler is doing. And so if anyone has seen the Hush animation or knows that story, this Riddler felt closer to the Hush character than the traditional Riddler in the comic books, in my opinion. And if you take that and mix it with just the detective noir style of the film, the gothic behavior of young Batman, which makes sense, it's year 2. He's truly not as developed as he will be in years to come. You know, I know we'll probably touch on the martial arts part and all of that, but I think that just what was really the outlier for me, what attracted me to the film through the trailers, and it didn't disappoint, thank goodness.
Yeah, it didn't disappoint. Nope, not at all.
Yeah,
not at all.
So it was a good movie. So, okay, what would your rating for the movie be? Out of, let's say, a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give the movie?
Oh man, it's like I'm on the spot.
Yes, sir. I put you on the spot there. I had to.
I mean, like, let me see. If I had to like give it a rating on a scale from 1 to 10, I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 9 for right now. I think a 9. A 9 would, you know, I was gonna say 8.5, 9, you know, we could flip flop between the two, but I'm gonna just say 9, you know, just I'm not going to be indecisive. I'm going to just give it a 9. I'm not going to give it a perfect 10.
Right.
Because I do want to see. Well, first, let me start by saying that I don't want to compare Robert Pattinson's Batman to the other Batmans. Not yet, anyway, because Robert Pattinson's Batman is not a fully realized Batman yet. Which, I mean, of course, that's the point of the movie. It's the year 2 Batman, so he's not fully developed, which is fine. That works for the movie. But I would like to see more of him, basically, as Batman and Bruce Wayne. I want to see Bruce Wayne developed more. I really just want to see more. I want to see more of what he can do with this character before I really start to be like, you know what? Robert Pattinson is just the best Batman ever. Sure. You know, before I could definitely put him in the top 3. And my top 3 would be Affleck, Bale, and then I'll throw him in there. But to really give him that number 1 spot, I would have to see more of him. Like, I'm gonna have to see more movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, just for the rating of the movie, I'll give it a 9. Because it was a dope movie. It was really good. I was very impressed with it.
Yeah.
You know, of course I had my nitpicks with it because you know, as comic book fans, we see certain things.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm not gonna be that guy where it's like, oh well, it wasn't like this, or this didn't happen, and blah blah blah. Like, I ain't gonna do all that shit. But you know, I see some chinks in the armor, so I'm not going to give it a perfect 10, but I'll give it a 9 because it was a really, really good Batman movie. It was a really good movie, period. And I agree. I really do like the direction they took with this one. For the reasons you named as well. You know, I like the detective noir style of it. I like the fact that it has the dark tone. It stayed with the dark tone that Nolan kept up with, because of course Tim Burton movies had a dark tone too, but then Christopher Nolan took it to a different level. He made it darker, and Matt Reeves' Batman is darker. It's like it's just getting darker and darker and darker.
Yes,
I'm all for it. I'm here for it. So I think that's good because they could really do some things story wise with it. One thing I would like to add is that I wish it was rated R. Because when you look at this movie is not for the family. Like, it's not, even though it's PG-13, it's not something that kids would really enjoy. Like, I can't see kids going to see this movie. I'm going to say kids at a certain age, like probably kids under like 12 years old. 12, 11 years old, I can't really see them getting into this movie like that. Like, I feel like this is an adult movie. Agreed. That's how I felt when I watched it. So, yeah, I felt like they should have just gave it the R rating and just, you know, go with that, because they might look at it like they might not sell enough. They might not sell enough tickets or whatever. But I think Deadpool and the Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix, those showed that R-rated superhero movies can sell. Absolutely agree. Yeah, so a rated R Batman would definitely sell. And I think also with them giving it an R rating, it would have been something different. Like, it would have been like, oh shit, like a rated R Batman movie. Like, that would have been another draw for it. Because there's been so many Batman movies in the past, and people have been saying, damn, how many more Batman movies we're going to get? How many people are going to play Batman? You know, it's like Batman, Batman, Batman. But I think if this one was rated R, it would have been a change. It would have been a change up. It'd be like, you know,
I'm going to take it one step further and say that it was just it was a rated R movie. The reality of it is there was nothing about that movie that was strictly PG-13. You had the opening scene of the movie is a murder, and a graphic one at that.
Right. It was graphic.
Had many different. It was graphic. I mean, you had many different. There were so many different tones in that movie that were not appropriate for children.
Right.
The tones of prostitution, the club scenes, the serial killings themselves, the explosions. Like, honestly, it was kind of, there was parts about it that were spooky and horror-like for adults. So, I mean, like the scene in the very beginning, the opening scene, and this is a spoiler alert for anyone who haven't seen the movie yet, which you definitely shouldn't be listening to this episode yet in the first place.
Oh, we'll let them know. We'll let them know. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. But, you know, in the opening scene where there's the one part where the mayor is talking on the phone and then Riddler is kind of just standing behind in the shadows. And at first you don't notice it, but then you realize he's there. Like, you know, that almost had horror elements to it, which are in no way appropriate for a PG-13 rating. So I would go on to say that, honestly, the other side of it is it just is the most appropriate to be rated R. There were too many things about that film that did not make it fit PG-13. And what's even more ironic about it, believe it or not, is that there were stories that the producers refused to allow Penguin to smoke a cigar because it wasn't an appropriate thing for him to do, since children would be watching the film. I mean, are you freaking kidding?
I heard about that.
How many other things about that movie were inappropriate for children? So
there was so many.
It was so many things. Like, I'm like, really? That's the thing you were concerned about compared to all the other shit, the drug use and etc. that was happening in the film? I totally, overall agree with your assessment. I'm going to give my score, but believe it or not, I just wanted to tell you that you were actually right on par with the average score for the film. The average score for the film is between 8.5 and 9.
Oh, really?
So, okay. According to the IMDb site, it actually has 8.4. And then another site has 9. So it looks like the average is between 8.4, 8.5, and 9.
I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, I definitely think it's reasonable as well. And I would say I would give it a 9 as well, for a lot of the same reasons that you did. I think overall, the film, Matt Reeves just did a great job of capturing, the darker side of the Batman character, as well as doing a great job of making sure that it was portrayed through the numerous characters that supported the Batman. I think Catwoman killed it.
Zoe Kravitz killed it as Catwoman.
Oh, she was excellent. The mannerisms, the tone of voice, the entire thing. She just did an excellent freaking job as Catwoman.
I agree. She did.
Hats off to you, Miss Kravitz, because you definitely came through and did what you wanted to do. The chemistry between them was excellent. The movie gave everything that you would have wanted it to, in my opinion. And I think for me, the reason I would say that I think that Robert Pattinson is the best Batman thus far, even with this one movie, is not because of the overall character yet. It's not fully developed yet, but for the part of the story that he's responsible for playing at this moment, he did the best job for that part of the story. So in other words, his part of the story for his first movie is year 2 Batman. If I compare that to the Batman that Michael Keaton was supposed to play, which was also an older Batman and wasn't really sure where he was going with Batman. In fact, that was the case for 3 of the Batmans. Michael Keaton's Batman, George Clooney's Batman, even though it's just ridiculous, the whole situation.
Yeah, right.
Still, technically, Michael Keaton's Batman, George Clooney's Batman, and Ben Affleck's Batman are all older age Batman. They are Batman who are really trying to just decide how much longer they want to be with Batman. It was hinted at that for Val Kilmer, but it wasn't very much the case in his movie. Again, his Batman was overshadowed by Two-Face and Jim Carrey as the Riddler. But if I look at, okay, for the time that they were responsible for playing the Batman, who did the best job portraying the character for that time period, that's why I give it to Robert Pattinson. Because the only other Batman I feel he could properly be compared to is Christian Bale's Batman from the Nolan movies because of the Batman Begin movie, which was also supposed to be an early stage of Batman. If I compare those two Batman versions, what I see is that Christian Bale did do a good job of being both Bruce and Batman.
Yes.
But Christian Bale did not have a full understanding of the torment of the character. I don't think he portrayed the torment of the character in year 2 as well as Robert Pattinson did. Because one of the things that I like to speak on in regards to this movie is how people are already comparing the martial arts skills between his Batman, Robert Pattinson's Batman, and Christian Bale's. Okay, there's a key difference there. In Christian Bale's version of young Batman, he trains with the League of Shadows before he ever becomes Batman. Mm-hmm. But in this series of Batman, as far as everyone can tell, he has had no contact with the League of Shadows, which is actually very accurate per the comic books, because in the comic books, Batman didn't meet the League of Shadows, and which was it's not called the League of Shadows, that's for the movies. It's the
right. The League of Assassins.
Exactly, the League of Assassins. He did not meet the League of Assassins until after he was already fairly established as Batman.
Correct.
So for those reasons, I look at the two characters and I say, the younger version of Batman, and not just that, but who did the best job portraying Batman for the period they were responsible for portraying him, I give it to Robert Pattinson. Now, that does not mean I don't want to see further development of the character. He needs to develop his martial arts skills, because I think, as you previously mentioned, in other conversations, it's brawler style right now, which is, you're 100% spot on with that. His style of fighting right now is more of like a skilled brawler, which is absolutely accurate. But he does have a wealth of martial arts skills that need to develop. I've heard people talk about his weight and size. That's a fair assessment. I don't know that Batman early ages was as cut up as he's going to eventually become, because at one point he gets to like the peak of human, physiology. He's going to get, where he needs to be. I do want to make sure that they also take that path. And then also, there's obviously still a lot of angst there and trauma there, because you can tell in this movie how he dealt with Alfred, that he was still a little short with him. And, he's still trying to gather his emotions. But, overall, I definitely would say that I agree with you that 9 is appropriate, because for 10, there would have to be a few changes to some other areas that I noticed were just a little off. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't give it a 10 yet either. I agree with you.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't give it a 10. I think a 9, like 8.5, 9 is appropriate. Now, just to touch on the martial arts bit. So the thing with Batman is he was trained in martial arts by multiple teachers, before he became Batman. The Batman Begins movie, they took liberties because he was trained by the League of Shadows.
Exactly.
As we all know, who are really the League of Assassins in the comics.
Right.
In the comics, he was trained in martial arts prior to becoming Batman, but he would travel all over the globe to be trained by different teachers.
Right.
So now when we talk about the Robert Pattinson version, no, we didn't need to see like full on martial arts in that movie. But even just like a little bit to see that he was like somewhat skilled in that area, because even at year 2, he's still skilled in martial arts. But with that movie in particular, he didn't need to go full on with the martial arts because he was fighting really a lot of henchmen. And when I really think about that movie, he didn't like fight anybody who was extremely skilled in martial arts, if skilled at all, actually. He was just fighting thugs, pretty much.
Exactly.
So he didn't really need to go all out with the martial arts. So I was okay with not seeing him like busting out all these moves and shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the same time, I know some people might feel a way about not seeing that. So, you know.
Which is fair. That's fair. At the end of the day, that's fair. I definitely think those are some good points. Yeah, he absolutely does have a lot more, diversity to his martial arts skills besides just being a brawler, even before, training with the League of Assassins or interacting with them. And in fact, it's said that he's like a black belt in multiple disciplines. So there definitely there was some opportunity to expand beyond, just the brawler style of fighting. So that's definitely fair. I think overall, I just appreciated, like, for instance, the scenes where, he comes out of the shadow at the train station and fights them and etc.
That was really good.
It was really good, right? It was really a show of, the way that the film was put together, first of all, speaks to not only Matt Reeves' directorial skills, but also Robert Pattinson's ability to adapt characters perfectly. He did a great job of portraying Batman in this gothic setting, and I think for the most part, what I appreciated about this was, even in the room, I can tell you the very first time I saw the movie, when he was walking around with Gordon and scoping out the whole scene, I literally said to myself, there's something in his eyes. He's recording this. I said that. I literally thought that to myself. I said, yep, he's recording this. So when they got back to his cave and he took the contacts out of his eyes, the reason I could feel that, I could tell that, is because of how Robert Pattinson acted that scene out. The way he spent a few extra seconds to look at one specific area, the way he was kind of moving his head, his slight mannerisms. I was like, yeah, this is Batman. He's, with all of these people there, he knows he needs a way to properly record it without being able to actually obviously walk around with like a camcorder or something. So it was just, I felt like Robert Pattinson really outdid the expectations that people had set upon him, because I can say, I know there were more people who doubted that he could do it because of Twilight than people who supported that it was going to be good. Everyone I talked to was like, oh man, they got that shiny ass vampire from the Twilight.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yes, like everybody was so mad that they had the audacity to cast the main character from the weird Twilight vampire movies to be Batman. And so I think what he showed was his acting chops. He showed that he just holds a wealth of different methods and etc. under his belt to be able to pull this off. And I really appreciated that. And then, there were just other things in the movie that they got right that was exciting. Like when he shoots his bat gun after the police are chasing him in the police station and he goes all the way up to the top of the building. right? And I'm like, yes, Batman has to do that. Batman has to swing, you know what I mean? He has to swing away. It has to be done properly. The angle, the mannerisms, everything that was done for that scene was done well. You know, even when he jumps off the building, it's year 2 Batman. He doesn't have the fancy equipment to make it look like he's flying seamlessly. He jumps off the building, but he falls lands. Right?
Yeah,
he didn't land smoothly.
Nah, it wasn't a smooth landing at all.
Right. You know what I mean? So I appreciated all of that. I think that overall, I was impressed with Matt Reeves. I was impressed with Robert Pattinson. But now that brings me to my next question for you, sir. What did you think of all the supporting characters? The Penguin, you know, Falcone, the Riddler. What are your thoughts about how those actors performed those characters?
So for the supporting characters, I mean, I think they all did a great job. All of them. I was impressed with all of them. They all brought their skills to the table. They all brought those characters to life. They were believable. And yeah, I mean, they all did an amazing job overall. Commissioner Gordon, well, he wasn't Commissioner Gordon yet, but we'll just say James Gordon.
Right. It's coming though. It should be coming.
Yeah, that the Commissioner Gordon will come up probably in the sequels, but well, it will come up in the sequels. I know they're not going to just make sequels without doing that. But he did a great job. Falcone, I definitely like I like the pick for who played him. I like the dude that they got to play him, John Turturro. I think he definitely was a good fit for Falcone. He definitely has like that, not only that look, but he has the acting chops to play that gangster, that Italian mobster, that Godfather type of, you know, which Falcone, I know people say Falcone or Falcone, whichever. You know, you need to have that acting ability to bring that forward in that character. So I think he did a great job. We touched on Zoe Kravitz. She did a great job as Catwoman. She had the look. She not even just the look. She portrayed her very well. She portrayed Selena Kyle very well, because it's one thing to be Catwoman. You know, she's Catwoman in the costume and all that good stuff. But even out of the costume, the way she portrayed Selena Kyle was really good. And so I thought she was really good. And I do like Anne Hathaway's version of Catwoman as well, because I think she did a great job.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I think Anne Hathaway definitely gets a lot of flack, but what a lot of people don't realize is that she was paying homage to the woman that played Catwoman in the Adam West series, the other one besides Eartha Kitt, because, you know, one of them was Eartha Kitt. But then there was another woman who also played Catwoman, and she was a white lady, and forgive me, I don't know her name, but
in the
I
Adam
feel
West
like
one?
Yes, in the Adam West one. There were two
Julie Newmar.
Yes, exactly. And so I feel like her version, Anne Hathaway's version of Catwoman, was supposed to be homage to Julie Newmar. Whereas I feel like Zoe Kravitz's version of Catwoman was more so a little more modern. And even though she definitely had some classy elements to her as well, I honestly would say that of all the Catwomen, so you have Eartha Kitt, Julie Newmar, Michelle Pfeiffer, Anne Hathaway, Zoe Kravitz, I think Zoe, for me, did the best job portraying the overall mannerisms of Catwoman. But obviously, that is no disrespect to Eartha Kitt. that's no disrespect to Michelle Pfeiffer, because in my opinion, even though the Batman Returns movie overall had some like parts that are like boring and wasn't as good as the first one, I think Michelle Pfeiffer did a good job as Catwoman, actually. But I'm glad you mentioned Anne Hathaway, because I do think people give her a really hard time. They say she's the worst, and there's no way. Halle Berry is the worst.
Yeah, Halle Berry. I mean, and I honestly don't even blame Halle Berry. I blame the director, right. whoever came up with that idea. Just
exactly.
Yeah,
totally agree. They tried to separate her, which first of all, Catwoman has had her own story, but it always connected back to Gotham. Right. And it always had something to do with Gotham and her origins there. I don't even know if that movie they were in Gotham or if her name was Selena Kyle.
I do remember it wasn't Selena Kyle. I can't remember what exactly her name was, but yeah, she wasn't based off Selena
at
Kyle.
all.
So that was like a whole different.
Exactly. Yeah, they should have just. You're right. Like they should have just not even went there.
No, they shouldn't. They really shouldn't have.
Yeah, that she was the worst by far. And as you said, it wasn't her fault. They were trying to give her a separate story. They didn't connect it back to Batman, which is where Catwoman originated. They shouldn't have done it. They should have just let it be if they weren't going to do that. So, okay, I definitely agreed with your assessment on the side characters. I think Colin Farrell absolutely killed it as the Penguin.
Yes, that's another one I was going to touch on. Yes, Penguin.
Yeah.
Dope. Mm-hmm. Dope version of Penguin, yeah.
Absolutely agree. Totally. He was unrecognizable in that.
Very unrecognizable.
I mean, like if you didn't know beforehand that it was Colin Farrell, like you wouldn't guess. Your first guess wouldn't be that was Colin Farrell. But he was hilarious, and he just did a great job.
And I was actually shocked when I first heard that Colin Farrell was playing the Penguin. I was like, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
right.
Well, like, hold up, because I didn't see him as the Penguin, but I just saw his name listed as the Penguin, and I was just like, okay, what? Like, hold on, what are y'all trying to do here? Like, what version of Penguin is this? But then I saw, how they made him up and everything, and I was like, oh shit, he does look like the Penguin, except that he's tall, he's taller. But I was like, okay, it'll be interesting to see what he does with the Penguin, how he portrays the Penguin, which I did like in that movie, because that Penguin was more of I feel like he was more of a mafioso type of Penguin. Yes. Even the way he was called, he was called Oz, instead of Oswald Cobblepot.
Exactly.
He was Oz. So he was like more gangster. Like he was just
he was funny. He was funny. More gangster. It was along the lines of the detective noir style of the movie. Right. Which was great, because you did not want an over animated Penguin in that film because it wouldn't have fit the style of the movie. No. And I think he still managed to be very comedic at some of the lines he said, right? But he also did a great job with his overall portrayal of the character. I think they were spot on with Falcone, like you mentioned, with John Turturro. I think they were spot on with the Penguin with Colin Farrell. Let's talk about Paul Dano.
Yes, I want to touch on the Riddler too. Yeah.
Yes, Paul Dano did an excellent job as a serial killer version of the Riddler. And he just is so creepy. He has the ability to really bring out the creep factor in any character he plays. And to be honest with you, I was a little worried about him, because he mentioned that the role actually had an effect on him after filming was done, which was similar to some of the remarks that Heath Ledger made after filming the Joker because, he got so enthralled in the character. And the same thing was mentioned by Paul Dano. And he appears to be a method actor who really takes seriously understanding the character and developing the character throughout the story. And so I think Paul Dano got really close. I mean, it's my understanding the costume of the character was Paul Dano's suggestion, which is close to the Hush character, yes, if you see the animation or if you read the comic, but it is also, there are certain aspects of it that Paul Dano specifically added, like the masking tape around the mouth and etc. And I'm like, ooh, he really dove into the character with the Riddler. So I also definitely think he did, a great job there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I really did like this version of the Riddler. I really did like this version of the Riddler. It was just really dope the way they approached him, because the Riddler, in my opinion, has always been like a silly type of character. Now, I understand that he's a challenge for Batman mentally, cerebrally, because the Riddler is an intellect. He's an intellectual.
Yes.
The Riddler is an intellectual. So he's not a physical opponent for Batman, but he's an intellectual opponent for Batman because he's always testing Batman intellectually. So I understand that part. And I mean, he did the same thing in this movie. So they stayed true to that. Because of course the Riddler can't physically fight Batman. He's gonna lose. He's gonna lose every time, obviously. But I did like this approach because it wasn't as like silly and goofy like some of the other portrayals of the Riddler, where he's wearing like this tight green suit with the question marks on it and the purple mask, and I mean all that works in the comics and all that works in the it all works in the comics and the cartoons or whatever, but for a movie of this nature, for something that's dark and serious, dealing with the detective noir style and everything, you had to make the Riddler a very serious, not even character, but villain. Like a villain that could be a serious threat to Batman. Like this version of the Riddler couldn't be a joke. He had to be somebody that you could be like, damn, like I don't want to fuck with him. Like, it's just So I think I really like the way they approached him in that way. And I just felt like, okay, now he's like a bona fide Batman villain. Like he's a serious threat to Batman. He's not just like this goofy, like nerdy dude. Like, he's I mean, he was still a nerd. That's what was cool about it too. Like he was still a nerd. He even said it in the movie where he was just like, well, I can't physically go and fight these criminals, these politicians, but we're working together. Me and you together because I exposed them and, go beat them up. It's, pretty much along those lines.
Exactly.
So he knows he's not a physical opponent. So I think that was a great way of portraying him as a serial killer and just somebody with the mask, the full-on mask. And he had the glasses behind the mask, which I thought was funny. Well, it was in front of the mask. But, because it still showed the nerdiness of him too. So I thought that was dope. I really like the way they portrayed Riddler in this.
I totally agree with your assessment. I think it was spot on. And to be honest with you, this is something that I totally believe. And I know a lot of people are like, well, no, because he said this, but I believe that the Riddler does actually know that Batman is Bruce Wayne. And I'll tell you why. Because in the scene where he faces him at the jail, and there are certain parts of that conversation where he says, Bruce Wayne. And I understand at the end of it, he ends up saying he's the only one we didn't get. There were still too many different ways that he addressed Bruce Wayne to Batman. I mean, not even just in that sentence, when Batman first discovers the in the old Batman, in the old Wayne mansion, where he first discovers that the next victim is Bruce Wayne. He's showing different footage of Bruce Wayne and etc. and talking about the sins of the father and all of that part. And then you follow that up with when they get to the Riddler's house, there are both photos of Bruce Wayne and Batman up on that wall. Now, you can argue that's because he was trying to trick Batman into helping him with his plot and etc. But also, I think they're taking jabs at the fact that he does know. It's just that he doesn't want to reveal it yet because it's not over between them, right? Think about this. He gave himself up. And which means, even though, yes, he gave himself up because he knew he was going to break the barricades, that's not the only reason. Why assume that that's where Riddler stopped? I think he very much knows who Batman is. I think he knows Batman. I mean, look how intelligent he is. He's intelligent enough to uncover everything that happened with Thomas Wayne. He's intelligent enough to uncover or deduce that Bruce Wayne is Batman. I think in the second film, we'll end up seeing that it'll be revealed that he actually did know that Bruce Wayne was Batman in this film. I think that's going to be revealed.
Interesting take. Take.
I'm super excited to see where they go with the Riddler character. And actually, that brings me into my next question. So at the end of the film, and not the end credits, but at the actual end of the film, we see Riddler talking to someone in a jail cell. Here's another spoiler alert again for all our listeners out there. Spoiler alert coming. It has been confirmed that that character is supposed to be the Joker. So my question to you, and it's actually going to be a two-part question because it's about additional characters to come. And I've heard a lot of chatter out there in the universe about people who really want to see Robin in the second film. So my two-part question to you, is what do you think about them bringing Joker into this series, as well as do you think Robin would fit in the second film?
Okay, so for the Joker part, I honestly would bring him in, but I would wait until the third movie. I wouldn't bring him into the second movie because if you do that, it's obviously going to get compared to The Dark Knight, where Batman Begins, the first Batman movie with Christian Bale, didn't have the Joker, but it basically had a scene where Batman and Gordon spoke on, okay, this character, the Joker, I don't think they said, I can't remember if they said the Joker, but they had the Joker card. So that was like a clue, like, okay, yeah, it's the Joker. The people who knew, we knew, like, okay, Joker's gonna be in the second movie. So, and then we go to The Dark Knight where the Joker was in The Dark Knight. So I don't think the Matt Reeves version of Batman should introduce Joker in the second movie. I think, if anything, he should wait till the third one because I feel like there needs to be more of a build-up. And with Matt Reeves' universe, with it being so dark and edgy and the whole style that they're going for, I just think with this Joker, this Joker is going to have to be next level, especially if it's going to be a Joker that's going to surpass Heath Ledger's Joker in any kind of way. And Riddler was dark and edgy and over the top in just this first movie. So Joker's going to have to be like next level.
Exactly.
So I think there just needs to be more build up I think Batman needs to get his feet wet a little bit and then encounter the Joker. And then Joker really tests him in a whole new way, in a whole different way that basically just breaks him in a way because he's like a different level of villain. This isn't your typical villain. He has to surpass Riddler, Penguin, basically everybody because he is Batman's arch nemesis. He is the villain that basically gives Batman the hardest time. Like it's just So I think they need to go slowly with that one and give more of a build up. Just have more of a build up with him. Maybe give him like one scene like they did in this movie. Maybe do another scene where he says something and you're just like, oh shit, what is this dude about to do? You know, where is he taking things? So,
yes, definitely agree.
Yeah, I think they should go about it that way with the Joker.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that at the end of the day, the Joker has been done, right? Everyone has their different reasons for who they believe the best Joker is. You know, those who are nostalgic, from the baby boomers are going to say Cesar Romero, rest in peace to the legend. Others are going to say Jack Nicholson. Others are going to argue Heath Ledger. Some people like Jared Leto's version. I honestly didn't like or dislike his version. I feel like it didn't get enough screen time to really make a fair judgment.
No, it didn't.
And so I think there's a possibility that it could have been a good Joker. I'm actually going to throw one in there that I feel like doesn't get enough attention, which is a live version. Actually, because obviously we have to pay homage as well to the animated series version voiced by Mark Hamill, who most would argue is the best overall version of Joker ever. But I'm going to actually throw out there Jerome from Gotham.
Yes, I was just thinking about him too. Jerome from Gotham.
Yes.
That was a really good version.
Such a good version of Joker. He does not get enough, in my opinion, he absolutely does not get enough attention as a good version of the Joker. And he totally was. So first of all, he killed it. He nailed it. And I think a lot of people don't realize exactly how close to both the animated version and the comic books that portrayal was. It was an excellent portrayal. And I think people spend so much time hating on the show Gotham itself that they don't realize that the job that was supposed to be done to play that version of the Joker was done. The actor who portrayed him, and you have to forgive me because I always misspeak his name, but it's Cameron, I believe Shanahan or something along those lines. I think
it's Cameron Monaghan or something.
Yeah, or something like that. I have to look those up. I have to look it up. But he was a character called Ian on the show called Shameless. And I watched Shameless. He did a great job on that show. He was a good actor on that show. He played the gay son of the main character, Frank. He is not gay in real life. He is a straight man. He is either engaged or married. I can't remember. But he did an excellent job on that show. On the show Gotham, he played such a dynamic role of the Joker. Jerome Velasca at one point, and then Jeremiah, a twin brother,
Jeremiah,
the Joker, which was a little darker at one point. I mean, he just really killed it. And I don't think he gets enough attention for his portrayal as the Joker.
I think it's because of the show Gotham. That's why I think people just overlook it because it's a TV show and most people just compare like the movie versions.
Yes.
But people who watch the TV show, they know. They know.
They know.
His name's Cameron Monaghan, by the way. I'm looking it up.
Right.
Monaghan.
Yeah, I just looked it up. I was going to say, so I was definitely off. Monaghan, and he did a great job. His portrayal on the show was very close to the type of Joker from the animated series, and he brought that to life. And I think there should be some appreciation there.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, you know, there's a lot of people who love the Joaquin Phoenix version. I'm one of them.
Yeah.
I get it. You know, that it was far away from the comic books, right? Because they essentially gave him an origin story, which a lot of people didn't like because they felt like it took away from the mystique of the Joker and the fact that he's a scarier villain, you know?
I can see that.
Yeah, he's a scarier villain when you don't know his origin story. But for me, that performance was so marvelous and dynamic that you couldn't help but to appreciate it. And so that's why I say, you know, I still can't give any disrespect to Joaquin Phoenix version of the Joker. But to your point, I definitely think that because of how well this first film was done and because of the tone of the film and because of how well Paul Dano did as the Riddler, they would have to be very careful not to detract from the success of the first film by having either a Joker that's way too animated or a Joker, which the character at the end of the movie, to me, it was okay. That few seconds that we saw him in that scene where he's interacting with Paul Dano, it was okay. But again, it kind of almost feels like what we saw from Jared Leto's version, where we just don't know enough yet to know which direction they're going to go. But I do agree with you that I think they need to be very careful.
Yeah, they do. They just need to tread lightly and just wait it out. Yeah. Because I mean, obviously just like there's a lot of Batmans, there's a lot of Jokers out there. And you just got to be careful not to be repetitive in a way.
Exactly.
They have to approach this a different way. They're going to have to approach this differently. And I will put this out there that when they do introduce the Joker in one of the sequels, that should be rated R.
Yes.
They need to make that rated R. And they need to make that rated R because once it's rated R, they can really just take things to a certain place or a certain level. Like just from what you said about the tone and everything, they really just need to get off this whole PG-13 shit and just say, fuck it, let's go rated R and go all out. Especially since this version of the Riddler, this character, the way he was in this movie, and just the movie overall, just the overall movie being basically damn near rated R, like getting close to the edges of it and not being kid friendly, they might as well just say fuck it and just give it the R rating and then they could really do some things story wise, you know, because I don't want to make it seem like it has to be about, you know, all this cussing and just excessive violence for no reason and things like that, or just some like random sex scene or whatever. It's not even about that. I just want them to be able to take the story in certain places that they wouldn't be able to take it if it was PG-13. And I feel like with the character like the Joker, especially since even though he's a clown, he's a really dark character. He's one of the worst villains ever on the planet. You gotta give him that R rating so he can really create some madness. You know? Like,
yes. Exactly. I totally agree with you. I mean, the reality of it is the Joker is a super spontaneous, psychopathic lunatic, but he is also a genius.
Yeah, he's a classified genius. Yep.
Exactly. He has genius level intellect, which means even though he can have acts of spontaneity that are just completely insane, there's still going to be some level of intelligence to it that challenges Batman. So I think they have to be really, really careful. They have to tread lightly with their approach for this Joker.
Yes, absolutely. And real quick, I just want to add, because I know I mentioned him being the worst villain. Now, when I said that, I didn't mean like worst in terms of he's just a bad character or he's just the worst character. I meant like he's the worst villain, meaning like he's the devil, like he's like he's Satan himself. Like basically there are villains in the comics who are afraid of the Joker. Like he's terrifying. He's supposed to be a terrifying character. So I really want them to really go full force with it. Like it just has to be beyond Heath Ledger's version of it. Because I mean, Heath Ledger's version was terrifying in his own right. But they're going to go beyond that.
Exactly. I totally agree with you. Heath Ledger's version of the Batman was an anarchist, even though he was terrifying to a certain extent. There was a rhyme or reason behind his chaos, which is that he felt like everyone was equally privy to the chaos, right? He disrupted the powers to be, essentially, which is what a lot of people appreciated, because prior to him, there really wasn't that much of it in the Joker. But he wasn't per se like a violent murderer. You only really saw him kill, I think, one or two people. He killed the guys that worked for what is his name? The martial arts guy. Names are not my friend.
Michael Jai White.
He killed Michael Jai White and his henchmen, and then I think he killed someone else who was impersonating Batman. But that was really the extent of how murderous he was. Believe it or not, Jerome Valeska in Gotham killed more people in that show than Heath Ledger's version of Batman did, and of Joker did. And I'm not saying that Jerome was better per se. I'm just saying that from that perspective, he actually was more violent. And then you have Joe Quinn, who you see the complete development of why the Joker is completely broken and just doesn't give a shit anymore and intends to enact violence on whoever he feels deserve it. So if you're trying to best those three, who are the top three in my opinion, I would say Jerome is 3, Heath Ledger is 2, Joe Quinn is 1, or Heath and Joe Quinn are interchangeable, whatever your preference. But those are the top 3 Jokers. If you're trying to best those versions of the Joker, then you, like you mentioned, are really going to have to go dark with this character. You're going to have to take the time to really understand the importance of going rated R with this version of the Joker, which I hope they really take the time to do that. Because otherwise, they're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, I agree. I just think, they can keep going this PG-13 angle, but honestly, with a character like the Joker, I just think they just need to take it to the next level. They're going to have to level up with this one.
Agreed. Totally agree. Okay, and so part 2 and the last question of the night, sir, is what do you think about having Robin in the next film?
Robin. So with Robin, I would say no for the next film, possibly the third one. Just like I said with the Joker, I would wait. With Robin also, I wouldn't just throw him into the second movie.
Right.
But at the same time, I will say, if they were to even consider putting him in the second movie, I would just maybe put him in at the end, or maybe give like a I guess an Easter egg or something to just show, okay, Robin's coming.
Exactly.
Because Robin does come around in Batman's early years, as we all know. So yeah, they could throw him in there, but I would just say put him in at the end if they don't just save him for the third movie.
Right.
That way Batman could still get a full movie by himself, and he's, you know, filling things out more. He's getting more into the role of Batman, and he's really doing the solo thing. We really need to just see him as a solo Batman and really developing in that way. And then we can get to Robin, because Robin helps him develop in another way as well. Obviously, Robin's part of the Batman's whole mythos. So, you know, you got to throw him in there at some point. But I want to see more of Batman in his solo adventures and really just getting more into the mix with that before he says, you know what, I'm going to need to take on a sidekick. So.
Yes, you took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, I don't think I could have said it much differently. He's not developed enough as his individual character to wield a sidekick yet. If you look at the fact that where he's at right now, even the Batcave, there's one monitor up in a computer. His Batmobile is one of the earliest versions of the Batmobile. His equipment is such that, again, it's not refined enough where he's easy gliding through the air, or some of the things that we see later in his tenure as Batman. He is not at this stage, especially if the second movie intends to pick up with Penguin, with Riddler again, and with this Joker from the first film. They can only go but so far in between that if that's where they're going to pick up the storyline, right? They can't advance this 10 years from this story. So in my opinion, because of that, it's most appropriate to include Robin as an Easter egg or something at the end of the second one, so that there's excitement about the third. Because it's my understanding, if you look at the overall picture, that Robert Pattinson has agreed to 3 films per his current contract, but said he would love to do more than 3. So if you take that into consideration, and if that is truly going to be the case for Matt Reeves' version of these films, you have time to properly add Robin in and develop him. Hell, you may even have time to end the whole thing with a separate set of movies coming out for Nightwing, right? That Robin's character is going to advance to Nightwing, which... Little side note, I really think that Christopher Nolan dropped the ball by not continuing his films with having Joseph Gordon-Levitt playing Nightwing. He would have done an amazing job. He looked just like Robin. They mentioned his name is Robin in the damn movie. At the end of Dark Knight Rises, you see that he discovers the Batcave. Why didn't they do it? It was the perfect timing. Nolan, I get it. He said he only wanted to do the 3 Batman films, but you dropped the bag on that. So you fumbled the bag on that one, because you could have had something great there with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, in my opinion.
Yeah. And the thing is, when I say he, I'm talking about Christopher Nolan. He had no interest in bringing Robin in at all. Which you could clearly see he just didn't have an interest, but he figured, okay, let me just kind of throw him in there somehow, just to kind of quench people's thirst on that level. But he originally just didn't want to have Robin in there at all.
Right. Which I understand, but once you had Joseph Gordon-Levitt do the job he did in that role, he did a great job in that role. He looked like Robin.
Yeah, he had the look.
He had the look. In my opinion, he did a great job as the detective. They alluded to the possibility to come, and then it just fell dead. And it's like, dude, you had an opportunity there. But I do think that if they're going to do it, if Matt Reeves is going to do it, I don't necessarily agree with him needing to be an intricate part of the next film. I think the next film is still the opportunity for Batman to continue to develop and really for us to see immense development between this first film and this second film. I mean, the expectation on my part is that we're going to see an advanced version of Penguin. We're going to see an advanced version of Batman. We're going to see a, partnership, obviously, between the Riddler and the Joker. And, honestly, I have now seen the movie 3 times, seen that scene 3 times. And that Joker looks to me like it could be Two-Face too. Now, I know that it's already been confirmed that it's the Joker, but the way that the shadows of light falls on that character face, it almost looked like he has a distorted face somehow. Like half of his face is normal and half of it is distorted. It could be possible that they're throwing out there that it's a Joker to throw us off, that it could be Two-Face. You never know. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, if they do decide to go with Joker, I do think that, as you mentioned, that they have to take their time. And the same thing applies to Robin. Don't just throw Robin in the movie to quench the thirst of folks who want to see Robin. Take the time to finish appropriately developing the Batman himself so that he's ready and able to wield a Robin character, a sidekick character, allude to him at the end of the second one, and then introduce him in the third. I feel like that's the most appropriate path.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But before we wrap up, did you have any final thoughts that you wanted to throw out there about the movie?
Final thoughts. I think we pretty much summed it all up. Dope movie overall.
Yes.
A few things I will touch on though is some of the criticisms I thought were funny. Like people, there are people out there talking about the quote unquote wokeness of the movie, which I think is a bunch of bullshit. Because they're just saying it because Zoe Kravitz was casted as Catwoman, and then they had the black woman who's she was running for mayor, right? If I remember correctly, right? So they had her
and then Zoe's comments about the white privilege.
Right. White privilege. Because I know a lot of people, at least from what I've seen online and some of the articles I read, that line pissed some white folks off.
Yes, it did.
But my thing is, I think it fit. Like, I don't think it was out of place. It fit the movie because I mean, it is a bunch of white privilege going on there. Batman is basically white privilege, if you think about it. But of course, stuff like that is gonna piss some of these folks off.
Right.
Once they hear white privilege, it's like they just go crazy, and it's just like white privilege is a real thing. So
yes, exactly. But for those who don't want to come outside of their box, right? They want to stay in their little perfect box of existence and pretend like white privilege and racism and prejudices are not still issues. They don't want to hear that when they go to the movies and they go to see their favorite comic book character. They don't want any real life societal issues to be a part of their fantasy worlds, right? So that's why they were offended by those lines.
Right. And it's funny because since you mentioned real life issues and things of that nature, so it's funny that they're okay with real life type stuff in these live action movies. But when you bring in something like what Catwoman said in the movie about white privilege, now it's a problem, even though this is how people talk in the real world. And when we talk about rich people, wealthy people, that comes up. I mean, white privilege comes up. So I thought, it was fine. It worked for the movie. It worked for, because they were dealing with wealthy, corrupt white people, essentially. So, it wasn't like it was just thrown in there to just be on some woke shit or whatever. Because, you know, when they say woke, they're really saying the N-word, really. But that's a whole nother discussion. But that's pretty much their code word for it. But yeah, they just got pissed off because she said white privilege.
Exactly. You're exactly right. They don't want the real world brought into their fantasy world to a certain extent. And so for them, like I watched in every time that scene came on, I watched the reactions of some of the people around me in the movies, and there was some clear uncomfortableness amongst like some white people, right? Because they don't, and I'm in Texas, homie. So it was definitely like, you know, a clear discomfort when that scene came on. So yeah, I definitely think you're spot on there as well.
So I thought that was funny. But my final thoughts: great movie. I'm looking forward to seeing the sequels because I just think it's going to be interesting where they take it. I'm definitely interested to see which villain they're going to use in the second one. I've seen some names come up. I've seen names like Hugo Strange, who I think would be a great one. Put in there.
Was also on the show. Hugo Strange was also in the show Gotham as well.
Right. He would definitely fit that universe.
Yeah.
Who else? I saw some other names too. I mean, Scarecrow.
I was just getting ready to say, I was actually thinking Scarecrow fits this universe because Scarecrow's tactics are one that are based in fear. And Christopher Nolan briefly touched on that with his use of Scarecrow in his films, but he was kind of a secondhand character. Whereas Scarecrow actually was a primary villain for Batman. Yeah. And so I think that there is definitely an opportunity to use that character in this set of movies as well. But again, they'll just have to be careful about how they intertwine him into the storyline, as well as who they cast to play him, because that's going to be a pivotal part, as well as how they're actually going to again, intertwine that with what's already going on with Batman's development. So Scarecrow could be a good one as well.
Yeah. There's a lot of potential for some of these villains, and definitely a lot of potential for even new ones. Like I already mentioned, Hugo Strange, because he's never been in the live action movies. So this will be a perfect time to bring him in. Even Hush too. Hush would be a good one. It would be cool to see some of the, I guess some people would consider these the more monstrous villains of Batman, but like even Bane,
like Croc and Bane.
Yeah. And this might sound a little, I guess, off, and I don't know how they would introduce him in this particular Batman universe, but I really want to see Mr. Freeze done better. Yeah. Like I really want to see a different version of Mr. Freeze because I feel like Two-Face was redeemed through Aaron Eckhart's version, who I think did a great job as Two-Face in The Dark Knight.
Amazing job.
Did an amazing job. And the Riddler was redeemed in this movie because I think Jim Carrey's version was just a little too animated for my liking.
Right, exactly.
So I think Mr. Freeze needs to be redeemed. Also, you know, he needs a do-over. Yeah.
Totally agree. And they can do that. Like if they were able to find a way to make Mr. Freeze similar to the Riddler in the fact that he's some kind of serial killer or something, and maybe perhaps though the way he does it is that he introduces a pathogen that essentially, you know, kills the organs by dropping the temperature or something. There is a way to really make him cool.
There is a way.
But they would have to just really take the appropriate time to consider how to approach that.
True. Very true.
Yeah. So, if my final thoughts on the film are very similar to yours. Great job, Matt Reeves. Congratulations on the job well done.
Yes,
great job. Definitely to the director. Great job to Robert Pattinson on the title of character. You knocked it out the park. Same to Zoe Kravitz with Catwoman, Colin Farrell as the Penguin, Paul Dano as the Riddler. All of these characters, everyone played their part. They did an excellent job. John Turturro as Falcone. I just think that what we saw here. Oh, I can't forget Jeffrey Wright as Detective Gordon.
Right. Jeffrey Wright. He did a great job. Yeah,
he's a great actor. Very underrated. If people don't know about Jeffrey Wright, you need to look him up. He's such a dynamic actor.
He is.
This guy has played everything from, Basquiat in his biological story, who Basquiat was a famous Black artist, to this character named Peoples in that Shaft that came out.
I remember that one.
Yeah. And for the longest time, I thought that guy was actually Spanish. I thought he was actually Dominican.
I thought he was.
Jeffrey Wright's just Black. Right. He's just to the supporting character in the James Bond movies. The man is just very dynamic. He does a really good job. So shout out to him as well as Gordon. I just think everyone killed it. I'm super excited about the second and third films to come. The sequels should be excellent if they take their time and do it right. And I
agree.
I think this was a great review, sir. I feel like we pretty much, talked on so many different aspects of the movie. For those of you all out there who may have listened to this without seeing the film, I don't know why you did that, because we did speak on spoiler alerts. But if you haven't seen it already, get out there and see it, folks.
Go see it. Very, very dope movie.
Yes, very, very dope. They did an amazing job. So that concludes this week's episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Truth. And before we go ahead and wrap it up, Mr. PAT, please kick that contact information for anyone who would like your dope services.
thepatchannel.com. That's right, thepatchannel.com. You can follow me on Twitter, IG, Facebook. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. All links are provided on thepatchannel.com. I also provide services such as graphic design, illustration, web design, and writing services. So those links are also available on thepatchannel.com. So go there and get plugged in with me, whether it's through business or through my music ventures. And real quick, speaking of music, got to give a shout out to my homies, Mike Ruckus and E Breeze. The three of us, we are Third World. Third World is the name of the group. We have a mixtape out right now called Linguistic Dialects.
Yes, sir.
Very, very, very positive feedback we've been getting so far for the mixtape. Mm-hmm. And we do have a deluxe edition coming soon, very soon, with a few more new tracks. Yes, with a few more new tracks added to the mixtape. So be on the lookout for that.
Yes, I would definitely be checking for that, sir. Great stuff.
It should be coming, I believe, this week, but definitely soon, very soon. And of course, I'm going to promote it. So you'll definitely hear about it.
Yes, if y'all not hip, get hip. Every one of those fellas are legit lyricists. I'm talking legit lyricists. If you have not checked any of their work out, check it out. Third World, excellent stuff, sir. Thank you for dropping that additional information. Definitely going to be checking for the deluxe version of Linguistic Dialects. So to all our listeners out there, thank you for your continued support. You know, we do this for you all. Please feel free to check us out on YouTube, on Facebook, and on YouTube. If you haven't done it yet, go ahead and hit that like, that subscribe button. Keep yourselves in the know of all the dope sessions that we release. And until next time, we say peace.
Peace.